So the film is an adaptation, but a very loose and free one. Can you talk a little bit about the Henry James story? And when you encountered it, when you thought it would be a film?
Yeah, first of all, I really wanted to do a melodrama. And melodrama drove me to this novel, which is on my desk for like 10 or 15 years. And it's, for me, one of the most heartbreaking, beautiful and awful novel. Because you can beat it in terms of melodrama. I mean, melodrama is what? It's just two people, everyone knows they should be together except them, and they realize when it's too late. And this is...
That's your definition of melodrama?
Yes, it is. And in the Henry James novel, it's in 50 pages, it's decent, it's beautiful. And the heart of the novel is, which I took, is I cannot fall in love because there is a beast that's going to destroy everything. And when the person, I exchange the role as the man, but realizes that the beast is suddenly the fear of love, it's too late. So I took this argument, I put most of it in the first scene in the ballroom in 1910, and then after I exploded it. But I kept two things, fear and love, how they go so well together. And I wanted to go further in fear, and then I wrote the 2014 part, which is almost a slasher, you know, so a kind of cinema of fear. And then I went a little further and wrote the 2044 to have this kind of concept that you have a dilemma, which is to choose between having like a great job or losing your emotion. And it's all this kind of path in my head that drove me to the script and to this structure.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating story to have as a starting point, because it's the defining thing about the James short story. I think it's just this sense of dread and anticipation and a fear of what might happen. And I'm interested in how that as a mood seems extremely cinematic. So, you know, the film seems to be more like not so much an adaptation of the book, but like a distillation of its mood.
Yeah, I took, as I said, the argument, and then this argument gives, you know, it opens so many doors to images, to other stories, and the film, it's exactly that. It's a door that opens a door, that opens a door, that opens a door. That comes from only one thing: there is a beast. What is the beast? With this only simple sentence, the only very simple two words together, fear and love, you can, especially in movies, open so many doors and have so many images that are coming.
I wanted to ask you to say a bit about the two actors. Léa Seydoux, somebody you do know, and I assume you had her in mind for the film. The film we noticed at the end is, of course, dedicated to an actor you worked with, Gaspard Ulliel, who passed away a few years ago. So the idea was for Léa and Gaspard to be in the film together.
Yes, it was really a film for the two of them, which I know. Gaspard was here like 9 years ago for Saint Laurent. Léa is quite simple. I mean, I think she's the only French actress that could be in three parts. In 1910 and 14 and in the future. She's timeless in a way. She's very modern and very timeless. And also, even if I know her very well, when you look at her, you don't know what's in her mind. And this kind of mystery, I mean, camera loves it. So she was the perfect part of that. And then Gaspard, yes, for me it was obvious that I was writing for him, and so he passed away like a few weeks before the shooting was about to start. So we decided with Justin, the producer, to still do the film, to postpone it. and to replace Gaspard by not by a French actor, not to have a kind of comparison or something. So I started a very classical casting process, meeting American and British actors for a few months, and then I met George McKay. I went to see him in London, and after like 5 minutes, I knew he was the guy. I could find in him some very similar qualities, human qualities in Gaspard, but besides that, his acting was just great, so I brought him back to France. I wanted to see him and Leah together, and for me the couple was perfect. It's the same film and it's not the same film. And for me, George made the film possible again.
Were you looking for something in the male character that you said, about Leia, somebody who could exist in 3 time periods? Or were you looking for something else with the male character?
I wasn't looking for anything. Those things appear little by little. And for example, now the film is finished, I can see that Leia, though she has very different looks through the periods, in a way she's the same. And George is like very, very different.
Exactly, yeah.
And I like this kind of different things about the actors. It's not something I decided. It's something that happened because of them, because of, it's so mysterious how films are made.
It's part of the effect of the film, I think. How he's so completely malleable and she somehow...
Yeah, she's like keeping something through the ages. And it's very, very, very different. And I like the differences between the two.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, obviously, about the structure of the film. I think one of the defining aspects of your films is how they work with time, even when they're set in even a film like Nocturama, which is set over a day, has very interesting decisions about how time is felt in the film. And you made a period piece before with La Polonide, House of Pleasures, which also has a little bit of an anachronistic aspect to it. And here I think it's very interesting, given how you've worked with temporality in your other films, to see you working in 3 different time periods. So I'm wondering if you can say just a bit about that decision. The 1900 seems closest to Henry James, of course, but then to have the other 2 and a little bit about each setting.
I think cinema is great to play with time and space, of course, but mainly time. And I've been doing this very much in the last films, House of Pleasure here, but also Saint Laurent. I wanted to push it a little further, going through ages in a way, because it calls ghosts, it calls a lot of things that are really amazing for films. So how I try to it's not mathematical, it's very sensitive, in fact. You have your 3 stories, and then how you put them together. The most difficult thing is to be sure that at the end you won't have 3 stories, you just have one. You don't have 3 characters, you just have one. So it's how you make every story like independent and being part of like a big story. That was the most challenging work on the script.
Can you talk about the period section? You're referring to an actual flood, right? That's an actual event that happened in Paris, and I guess I'm just wondering about the process of figuring out that time period. Like, was it close to how you were working the period in La Polonide, or?
Yeah, I was always trying in every period to make like intimate catastrophe and collective catastrophe. So in 1910 we had this huge flood, which is quite impressive, and from that, like in La Polonide, House of Pleasure, I do a lot of research and very, very precise. And in 2014, it's the same anyway. The collective catastrophe could be, it's not an earthquake, it's just like a kind of more dramatic amnesia due to the way of, you show yourself to the world through social medias and stuff like that. And as the real flood in 1910, I had this real character, American character called Edward Roger, that is the one that posted these videos before killing girls. And all the iPhones videos that George makes, it's actually real stuff that I just, I didn't write these dialogues. I wouldn't be able to write myself these dialogues. And in 2044, we could say that the major catastrophe, that there's no more catastrophe, So it's maybe you're losing the fact of being alive. Well, this is future, so there's nothing real yet, but I think we're just not so far from it.
Maybe for you to dwell a bit more on the 2014 sections, which you describe as a slasher. I guess it sort of is, and I mean, it is the genre in which the fear of what might happen is like what defines a slasher. So I'm curious what you were trying to do with within the genre, and also like how you wanted to play with it or to expand it. Were you thinking of specific films or specific motifs?
Well, 2014 is something that we've seen in like many films. You have like a beautiful girl alone in the house and someone outside. I guess the only film I just watched again is a film called When a Stranger Calls, Fred Walter, which a film I really love, not very famous, but. And after that, you try to invent. How can you invent kind of motifs after so many films? I had this idea that all comes from a machine and the machine bugs, and at the end of 2014, you can see that nothing works, even in the mise en scène in a way, But what I like when you do like very classical motif is you have to find ideas to find something a little different.
And can you say a little bit about the future? I don't think you've ever made something set in the future before, right?
It's the first and the last time. Inventing the future is like very difficult.
Can you say what, a little bit? It's interesting, it's a future that's only like 20 years.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. But now, I think in the film it's 2044. I really think I made a mistake. I should have put 2027.
Things are moving fast.
No, but when I started to write this film, like 4 or 5 years ago, I worked with someone that knew AI very well, and so I was aware of many things, many dangers. Most of the dangers, in fact, are not technological. There are ethical, morals, there are politicals. But now, this year, the film is finished and going to be released, and I couldn't imagine that AI would be like the headlines of so many papers this year, during the spring. I mean, it was like the major danger of the future, The guy who created that said, I created something much more dangerous than the atomic bomb. And in a way, it could be dangerous, because if these ethical, moral, and political problems are not solved, yes, we create a tool, but the tool is going to be stronger than us, and we should be stronger than the tool. And now, when I presented the film in Venice and Toronto, there was in America this huge strike with screenwriters and actors, and AI, the use of AI in art was at the heart of the negotiations. So yes, in a way, it's quite contemporary at that point. But when I say it's difficult to imagine the future, when I do 1910, it's a lot of work, but you have a lot of documents. You just reproduce stuff. You don't invent things. So how can you invent the future? Usually in science fiction, you have like two directions. One of them is like the ultra-technological, direction, and one of them is like the post-apocalyptic direction. And I wanted to try something a little different. And as you said, it's only in 20 years. So in 20 years, I mean, this building will be here, will be the same. You know, the streets will be there. So I decided to show the world as it is, but to change behaviors much more than visual things, and to take away. There is no more screens, no more internet, no more commercials, no more cars, and no more interaction between people. When Leah talks to her friend, it's just like a voice. This is how I try to set it up.
Can you talk a little bit about shooting in America?
Yeah, well, it's quite easy because we did not. Well, we did like a couple of nights in Los Angeles when she drives and stuff like that. But basically, everything was shot in France, in the south of France.
But I think the idea of America today is very present in the film, and I'm wondering about the decision to set that part to deal with that particular real life case and your interest in.
It comes from the fact that I decided to use Elliot Rodgers' material. So of course, for me, it's such an American character. Did I say something I shouldn't have said? What I mean is,
It's factual.
we do have serial killers in France, okay? But they do not say the same things. That's what I meant. That's all. Every country has serial killers. You're not the only one, okay? But yours are more spectacular. It's a good thing. So, I don't want to say that your country creates this kind of person, but this kind of putting themselves in mise en scène. Yes, a little. But you're the country of fiction, you know? So that's why everything is fiction, even reality. Okay. So that's what I made in my mind. So I decided that the second part would be in America. And of course there is something like America, Los Angeles cinema, everything works together in a kind of unconscious collective, which is very, very, very strong, of course.
It's late and I think we only have time for one more question, but I feel like I have to ask you to at least say a little bit about something that's always very important to your films, which is music. And maybe you can also tie in a little bit about the nightclub scenes which recur throughout them.
It's true that I really, really love making club scenes. It's very difficult, but there is something so full of energy, full of emotion, I think. It's not only picking up the good song and the good location, it's working on the extras and stuff like that. And for example, I really like the idea that in 2044, everyone is very, very alone, and you have a free zone in which you finally meet people, and you create like theater, periods. So it's the choice of music in my scripts come very, very early during the writing, and each song, not only the music I do, but each song that is in the film has a special meaning, not my affective meaning, I like this song, but a meaning for the character and what it has to say in the actual scene.
We're out of time, but I want to thank you for being here with us.